advancing, or at least hoping to advance in the final rule. So there may be some tweaks before it's ultimately finished.
Any guesstimates as to when the final ruling might come?
Not sure. The interim rule came out 60 days after the bill was enacted. So the bill was acted in March, it came out in May, and so anytime between now and maybe September, but it's hard to, they haven't committed to a date as far as I know.
Probably another 60 days out.
Yeah, maybe.
So under the authority of the president, can you put together committees to start? I mean, we're not looking at numbers, we're just looking at,
If we can establish what the committees will be.
is that a discussion we can have right now under this heading?
See why not?
Reason why we can't discuss that right now?
We may want to invite Linda Parkowski to the table, because she is working with a couple of committees that have been
Yeah.
early stage established from the economic development side. Come on down, Linda.
So Linda, why don't you, I asked you to give us a report tonight, so why don't you go ahead and do that?
Can I finish what I got to do?
No.
The letter that went out for the IFR was from Matt Chase, was on the 16th of July, going about that. So, and then the other thing too is the counties may establish public jobs programs, including incentives to accelerate or rehire employees. So, you know, we have a definite need for paramedics that we could do an incentive, part of our incentive portion for getting that. So if we can start looking at that, and we're going to be short on IT people in the near future here too. So I think that could be also looked at as a way of using some of these funds to get qualified and find qualified people at a higher rate to get them, to entice them to come. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out.
Hi.
Hi.
All right, so as Mike said, there has been 2 committees formed. One's a hospitality, travel, and tourism committee, and that's being led by Kent County Tourism. And they're gonna focus on, you know, what were the losses in the hospitality, travel, and tourism, because that's a specific use of the ARPA funds. They had their first meeting, came up with kind of like 3 recommendations. They're going to have another meeting. Joanne Maston is the county rep on that committee to discuss further. They're going to draft whatever they came up with. So that's one committee that's formed already. Then there's the small business committee to assess losses to small businesses throughout the county. And that's being led by the Central Delaware Chamber of Commerce. And Jeff Hall and Eric Buxton are your county reps on that committee. They have not met yet. Hopefully, they'll meet sometime in August. They're going to formulate recommendations, try to keep it as simple as possible. And then they want to meet with the county administrator to make sure that the recommendations comply with what's allowed with ARPA, and then the plan is to meet and present to Levy Court sometime in September. So that's the update from the 2 committees that I'm aware of that are being formed by, you know, the businesses in the county that were affected. Any questions on that?
I was going to add to that, if you don't mind.
No.
Because
It's your committee.
NACO has addressed the negative economic impacts, and starts off with workers and families, assistance to unemployed workers, job training, food, housing, cash, and other assistance households, survivor benefits for maybe a COVID member that passed. 2 is small business, loans and grants to migrate financial hardships, loans, grants, and in-kind assistance to implement COVID-19 prevention or mitigation tactics, technical assistance. And then 3 is public sector, rehire staff, replenish state unemployment insurance, which that's a different issue. And then administer economic relief programs, and then impacted industries, tourism, travel, hospitality, as you just said, other similarly affected sectors. So that goes right in line with what we're talking about, what we're trying to do. So we're on target. That's all I want to say, guys. We're on target.
On target.
Pending
Pending.
final ruling by Treasury. Because it could change.
I mean, there's other things in here, but we don't do them. We don't do educational and disparities, healthy neighborhoods. We're not really doing that, and health disparities. So that's for other counties and states that have those type of issues. So, but that's under negative economic impacts.
With all that being said, Jody, what kind of committees do you think we should form?
Well, we've already
Titles.
discussed previously about our fire companies, senior centers, whether or not they get grouped into one committee or separate committees.
Well, your fire companies would probably be under public safety.
Right. I just don't want us in a mode like we did with the police, where we make decisions in a vacuum and then,
Backtrack.
yeah, and it comes up later, if we get them involved.
Only if it comes up with a better idea like we did.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna have a better idea because it's their idea.
I think,
Go ahead. Or Alan's committee.
sorry.
You're the president.
I didn't want to cut you off. I don't know if you got it. You articulated some points. My concern with that, twofold. Number one, clearly like to have that information in advance to review it, but more specifically, I would prefer the experts in the room have a clear understanding and provide guidance for us to make decisions. So what I mean by that is, in that committee, for example, I think it would be very important for that committee to have a clear understanding of what the guidelines, regulations are, what their lead points are, so they can formulate some good ideas that the commissioner and then the commissioners can make decisions on, versus us saying, oh, well, you know what I mean? I don't know if I want to have that. Maybe it's just me. But I don't need to know all 150 pages or however many pages it is.
Only 26 on this.
Can you get that for me? Yeah, but on that, so that's where it is. The number's not infinite, so just because there's 35 million, we don't want the Economic Development Tourism Committee to see if they can come up with $15 million and.
They're not.
Right, but we don't want to
They're
set
being
that
reasonable,
precedent. Same with
right.
senior centers.
Right.
But, yeah, so I think using that, I think the same with senior centers. Establish their guidelines, let them talk amongst themselves, kind of a clear understanding of what their restrictions are, and come up with a plan to help us, help them, as we said with the fire companies. So if you ask them for committees, I got a few more, but, you know.
I think we've covered them. Economic development, small business, fire companies are of their own, senior centers, and then whatever other group is, nonprofits.
Health, like hospitals and doctors. And
Well, luckily, we only have the two.
but we got, yeah, but
Actually,
we do
one.
have these walk-in.
Yeah, the docs, yeah.
Sussex might be able to lead the way a little bit in that, meaning if they're articulating that situation.
The state chamber created a infrastructure committee also that they're going to recommend to the state. So, and infrastructure is such a large portion. You might want to think about that committee.
That would be a good committee to have as well.
So that's still everybody outside of us. What about us? I mean, that, you listed a form that somebody can fill out that says how much we lost.
Well, I think that should be up to Mike, since he's in charge of the county, to do the essential portion of that
Or
for
Susan.
employees, because,
Direct
I mean,
somebody
you
to
have
do
to work with finance, I know, but that's one of the things that, you know, we can find out, and then,
Yeah, what you're speaking of is the general revenue portion, and it's pretty, as you pointed out, it's pretty straightforward. The calculation, it assumes a 4.1% growth factor, and for all revenue lines, and basically what you compare yourself against is FY19, the complete year without COVID versus moving forward. And that's where you can calculate what your revenue should have been. And you can then basically remunerate the county for that based on that growth factor. That's basically what that is. So I think it's fairly straightforward. And you have to use just your general revenue lines. It can't be other things like, utility billing or tax, certain, delinquencies and things like that. It's strictly what your revenue streams are to support your general government. And
The 4.1%, is that to cover administration fees for this program? Or is that something differently?
that's
or is
strictly
it
on the
involved?
revenue. That's strictly on the revenue, side. So that's basically calculating what your revenue should have been if we didn't have COVID. But the administration part, there's allowance for utilization of consultants for administration or for auditing and things like that, that you can use the funding for. And that'd be separate from your revenue replenishment.
Gotcha.
Mike, do you think did our tax revenue really take a hit?
No, I mean, taxes,
It's fee revenue, right?
it's basically fee revenue for us. I mean, property tax is stable.
I mean,
places.
permits probably didn't
Permits
take a
were
hit 'cause they
actually
went
pretty good, actually. So the
up. Parks and Rec,
parks and, means the areas we saw loss in revenue, parks, sheriff's department, where the courts were shut down, things like that, they saw substantial loss. But what ARPA allows you to do is to look at each one of those revenue streams, including tax, and then apply 4.1% to it. Because there's an assumption, and it's a kind of a national growth factor that they're using, which surprised me. It was significant, actually 4.1.
Yeah.
But that's what's in there. You can apply, and it's an assumption that all your revenues would have grown 4.1%.
Pretty good return.
It is.
Pretty good returns.
that's higher than CPI.
Yeah.
Just making stuff up.
I don't know.
You don't have to do it.
Yeah.
It's there if you want to.
You didn't have to leave.
Hey,
if you
wait a
want to.
minute. No. Are you avoiding this for some reason?
Mr. Howe?
Just on call.
I had a specific question.
Wait.
I had a specific question. The Modern Maturity Center does fit the criteria that we know of? It does.
Nonprofit.
Glenn, don't even go there, because I'm on the board. It's
I know,
fine.
I was thinking you'd say amen to it. It does, right?
Well,
I've been approached about that.
I think if there's a demonstration of revenue loss, or if there was some health aspect to it, or if they had to lay off employees, or, there's a lot of different ways that an organization like that might look at ARPA and say, well, this portion of it applies to us. For example, they have a substantial business in the banquet business that all was shut down. So that was a loss in revenue, I'm certain, and they may have had to lay off people. So the point you made about rehiring, part of that discussion in there about helping companies and entities, employers rehire people they laid off, that's what it's speaking about. It's not just us. It's, you can create grants for companies to help them, have the capital to rehire people.
And they did not have to.
Commissioner Angel, you mentioned 1040s. Well, you weren't talking about assistance to individuals, were you?
No, I'm just saying that a tax form, I don't know what it is for the
1040s is personal. not-
personal, I know.
right,
I was using it as an example.
Yeah.
Because they have to file,
1120.
okay? So, but it's some way just finding out what they had, what they lost, and And you can actually do it in two phases. I mean, I brought this up, that you pay them what we got $17.5 million this time, and we got another year, another $17.5 million coming, and they could apply again if they're still not back, just to get them moving, because we want to make sure we open it up so we can utilize the monies fair across the board as much as possible. So, and we don't know what that is. That's the ungodly truth. We don't know what, I don't think it's been 70.5 million, but you just don't know. So, I'd rather have some in the nest egg to come back and say, okay, we can open it up again, come back and see us again. That way we can give everybody a truthful shot at it again. So, like I said, it was an interesting discussion, I will tell you that. So,
All right, we haven't been together in a couple weeks. I've left you alone. Haven't called you, you get all these warnings, don't call Mike. I've called you. The point I make is, just want to put it out there. Want to make sure that, as one person, I clearly articulate what I'd like to see. I'm one person. I don't control the court, but I want it said that I said it, so that if we leave here in 2 weeks from now, it's, well, we're not sure what we're doing. That's fine. I get it, but it's not because I didn't make a suggestion on my own that I think we're clearly, some of us are agreeing to. I would like to know, I'm not sure why we don't know tonight. I thought that was the whole plan, that we were going to go through the county's revenue losses and expenses incurred and have a number tonight. We're not doing that, fine. I don't know why. I don't need an explanation, but I would like it at the next meeting or the meeting after that, because that's the first phase, and I thought that was clear. To include any and all expenses that are eligible to be reimbursed, like, for example, essential pay already that wasn't covered under the other funding. That was one, right? So I don't, you want to chime in on that, go ahead.
that's one of them, you're right.
I don't want to talk about new pay, moving forward pay, but pay's already expended, right? We can talk about new pay later, but I'm talking about pay's already expended. So I'd like to, because I think we can do that. On a side note, I don't think that we should take the 4% and throw it in the general fund. I think we should take what we deserve, and we should take the rest and give it to the community in some form or fashion. So I'm not in favor of taking 4% over and above expenses if that's what was being talked about. I wouldn't like it. Of course, I'm one guy. Then I'm going to move to the last two and I'll be done, right? And I think I'm repeating. Go ahead, Alan.
No, I was just gonna say, you can take the money still and put it in the general fund, because we can still put it in an interest-bearing account and still make interest off of it, because we're allowed to do that. So that money could also go towards whatever we want to have it go to. So, I mean, I didn't say anything about taking the 4.1 for just us. I was just saying that that's what we're allowed to take, because that's what the government's saying, that they're giving us that as a growth rate, as Mike calls it, per year.
Well, I
So,
agree to disagree as I understand it right now. All good. Again, just as one guy, but I want it said so that when we leave, I said it. I like the committees. I like the committees early on for the simple purpose of saying to each community partner, like a senior center, fire company, other, the business community, nothing's going on. We're in this together. We're going to hear you. Our first meeting is just that, to tell you, we're here, it's infancy, we need you to help study the issues. Clearly, we don't have all the information yet, so no decisions will be made tonight, meaning at the first meeting. We want you to know that we want to partner with you. Heck, Glenn Howe, and you can be on the senior center committee. I just took over a little assignment, whatever, I'm just spitballing, right, to say that. So, you could convene a meeting in 2 weeks' time for the senior centers to have a conversation and have a better understanding of where we are. I think when there's silence, people start thinking the wrong things. So a meeting with our community matters. Nonprofits. I know nonprofits is a big one, but I will tell you this, in my opinion, the more we spend money on people that actually got harmed, nonprofit or not, heck, a Little League for all I care, and I'm just throwing that out there,
Yes, Coach.
versus, well, not Little League anymore, versus our bigger thoughts on infrastructure spending. I don't want to leave anybody behind that could have been helped, that legitimately earned it during COVID. I don't want to leave them out before we move on to big ticket spending, if it's possible. That's just what I'm thinking, right? Last two, infrastructure at the end, right? And everyone, sewer, water, broadband, all those things. I think we need to be careful about broadband. I think Mike articulated, somebody did. There is a lot of money out there for broadband right now. Ton of money. Let's make sure we capture a lot of that. It's gonna do good, but if we can take our resources and annihilate a couple other problems, like maybe 10 projects in the county that are on septic in low-income areas, you know, that's an impact that lasts for a long, long time, and nobody's coming to help us with those. So, last one, stir it up. I articulated this in the post, not that everybody's on social media. There's consideration, I think, to partner with the municipalities. I know they already got their money. I get it. Some of the municipalities have some big ticket ideas and not big ticket money. It would be nice to say, hey, the county, your residents pay county taxes. Yes, we got a big number. We're gonna partner with you in some form or fashion. Like Mike said, why would you want to partner with the state? Because we're the state, and they're doing good things. Why would I want to partner with, I don't know, Farmington? You know? Because they've got a pulse on what they need, and we're just going to help their funds stretch a little further. I appreciate the time, guys.
Well, no, I kind of agree with you, because, we have the city Dover liaison, Mr. Terry and I are on that. You have Milford, Jody has Viola and Wyoming.
I've got a bunch.
You got Harrington, I believe, right?
We don't have to go through them.
So, I mean, we have, and I think, Joanne, you're on Smyrna's, right? Hall, are you on City of Dover's too, or the three of us? Okay. It's been a while since I've looked at the charts, so, but that's where we can start a communication and our talks with the towns and the cities, and we haven't even had that chance yet to do either, because they're doing their own thing right now, and
I think the municipality ones, I don't think we should get into the weeds. If we decide to go down that road, and it's an if, I think you get into the weeds too much. You allow the council, the leadership within the municipalities to handle their business. All we're doing is partnership. I just spitball the idea of 10% rule. Give a 10% grant to each municipality. The problem with that is it's a big number if you're talking about maybe Dover. Not so big if you're talking about Bowers. But I think in that situation, it has to be equal. Because otherwise, too much influence from one municipality versus another when they all have needs. So I threw out the 10%. Because you could put a number on that right away and tell yourself if you can afford it. I don't know, quick math, it might be $2 million. But you just sent $2 million to all your municipalities in a partnering way. I think that's a good message. And they know what they need it for. I don't need to meet with them and say, well, I don't agree with you spending it on that. Who am I? They have their own leadership.
but I think we're still supposed to be able to know, that for accountability purposes, know where the money's going for. So you just can't say we're gonna give them $2 million and they're not gonna use all of it.
Well, maybe we can't do it.
So that's why I said we haven't even had that discussion yet, so we don't even know what their interests are. So we had an idea, a ballpark figure to go by. It's just like, right now, we don't know the ballpark figure for what we're trying to do because we don't have the final ruling. It's like it's in suspended animation right now. So, but communicating and talking about it is definitely one way of getting it out there and saying, hey, we're interested, how about you? So.
One thing, if I can chime in, one thing I learned this afternoon, I was talking with the acting city manager of Dover, and he told me that there was a conference call or Zoom or something that was organized by the state governor's office to talk to municipalities that were, from what I gathered, were smaller municipalities, the ones who received money through ARPA, but it came through the Office of Management or the State Treasurer's Office. So, like, we got direct funding this time for this, and so did the other two counties and some of the larger municipalities. But the smaller towns, anyway, there's this move afoot to hire a legal counsel and an accountant or someone who would do auditing for the towns so that they make sure that what they're using the money for is compliant and it's accounted for so that they don't run into a bind after the fact, you know. And so I think that's a really good thing. I'd like to maybe try to draft onto that. I don't know how to yet, but we'll see if we can. From what I gathered, the counties weren't involved with it, with this meeting, but maybe we could see if we could join it. If not, the model's a good one.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea because there's a lot of different ways you get really hung up bad during this process, or us, or the municipalities, or whatever. So I think that's a wise thing to do. So we should probably look at how we can do it.
That was a little bit tangential to your point of giving money, but you know, I'm just saying that there are some of those things that are going to be checked.
But with you saying that too, Mike, the state could actually give the city something too that we don't want to duplicate, do we?
Right.
For the same reason? I mean, we have to be something different? Or can we do that? So say, for example, Dover got money from the state for something, and we want to do the same thing.
Well, obviously, you know, if it was a project or something, it would get paid for once. But if there was a need for there was some demonstrated need, then yeah, we could look at partnership, or if a town needed to replace a water tower or something that was contaminated, some infrastructure that would qualify. That would be a good use of the funding in a town.
For accountability and transparency, I just want to make sure of course, we don't know the final rule yet, so that's why I'm saying, if it's possible, hey.
Just stretch their dollars. That's all I was thinking, stretch their dollars.
Yeah.
And then clearly it's in the pool of money for ARPA. So they're already gonna be accountability built into it, so. Anyway, Mike, I'll end with this, man, because I know that you might have, I want to make sure, is there any clarity on where you need to be the next time we meet, or 2 months from now? Is this just discussion? Do we need to provide better clarity on what we need to be doing?
Well, I think that the committee that Linda talked about will give some good input to us. If we, here in the discussion here, if we wanted to have like Newcastle has this intergovernmental relations committee that is a committee of all the towns, like a representative from all their towns, the mayors, and they're getting together to talk about partnerships and where they could, because they all got money, but there may be things that common themes or types of projects that they want to try to attack together. We may want to try to form a committee like that. And we have 19 municipalities in the county. That's a lot, but some are small, some are, but.
So small, yeah.
But, your point though, some of those small places got a small amount of money. Some of them didn't have budgets, but they could provide some documentation that they had expenses last year, so they were able to get like 75% of what they'd spent the previous year as a grant, through ARPA. But they're held to the same standards that everyone else is, so.
20, 30,000 to a small town, it might be 300,000 to a larger town.
Yeah.
But it matters to them, it'll stretch their dollars. Senior center. The only one I'd like to see is where are we on the, where are we working towards the deficit for the county?
Yeah. Well, at leadership last week, we were kind of suggested to hold off on that.
On the deficit?
Yeah, on looking at
Paying herself.
that. That coupled with, Ms. Durham's been out on, she's been out for a few weeks, but she'll be coming back the end of the month. So we can get together on that. And like we talked about some time ago, we can look at it a couple different ways. We can actually calculate the exact, what we actually did lose, or didn't realize, I shouldn't say lose, what revenue we thought we were gonna get that didn't come in FY '20. We can also apply the factor that Mr. Angel referenced. And I think in the narrative of the interim final rule, there was also some discussion about, taking some average over a course of like 3 years or something. You could do something that way too, and look at it a couple different ways, in the revenue loss and see it. But I think what the rule says is you're supposed to calculate it and then aggregate it. So it's like, you just don't focus on one revenue stream, like say, Sheriff's Department. Well, we lost, say, $500,000 there, 500,000, and then we're gonna apply 4.1 to that. And you're supposed to aggregate all of your revenues right now. Now, NACO is asking for them to be able to be separated. That was one of the requests from NACO, was that the U.S. Treasury allow them to separate different revenue streams, because some revenues are high and some are low, and bring them all together, it might be a wash, Probably more important in larger municipal, counties, urban counties. But we can get that probably in sometime next month.
There were two things on the agenda as I was aware of that.
Yeah.
One was county, one was new essential pay. New.
Yeah.
The new I thought was, need to be careful of that early. But making the county whole I thought made sense, because the county taxpayer kind of owns the county government, and so we fix that, make it whole, and then we have this much money left over to start with. That was all.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've done enough talking. I don't know, folks in the audience, I don't know. I'm impressed with you. Do we have more after this? Am I missing anything?
Last item, so.
They've held strong.
On that part, I really would look to leadership, though, for guidance on if you're ready to bring it back in, when we're ready to have it. So I think last Wednesday was pretty clear we weren't ready to have that discussion yet, but until we had some input from some of the committees and stuff. So.
Yeah, we need the committee meeting first, right? Information first before we can move forth on anything, really.
Well, that's what I was getting to leadership. That's what I'm trying to say. We were kind of moving along, and
Yeah. the
discussion was like, well, let's see what we're gonna, some of these other committees will come back with first.
I don't want to beleaguered, but I think it qualifies clearly. So what's the point in waiting?
Yeah. Right.
That's my thought. It qualifies clearly. County taxpayer owns the building, owns the government. It makes sense to make us whole. It'll be a small number. It gets the wheel moving. That's why I liked it.
Well, and I like your point that once you subtract that from the entire amount, then you know what's left. So that as these committees start coming in with requests, we know what we're dealing with, rather than wait
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and then
that's right.
it gets tougher. So it's,
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's what we'll do then.
We'll work towards that.
Anything else for discussion? Anything else, Mike?
At this point, no, but we'll obviously
Committee.
continue to bring this forward as it evolves. When the final rule is made, we'll kind of give a report on that. And as Linda said, those two committees that she referenced should have some report back in September. I think that will be informative to us, and from there may be some evolution of a grant program or something that can help businesses, certainly allowable under the law. And we're also watching to see what state agencies are going to be coming out with, because there may be opportunities to partner
Yeah.
rather than create our own program,
Drainage. So these committees, we're looking to appoint people to those committees from the public, or we're going to do it as from within?
Are you talking about the committees that Linda referenced, or,
Now, the committees we're going to be establishing,
okay,
like public safety committee.
okay. Well, then, yeah, we probably need to formulate what we think the composition of that would be. I don't know if we want to bring it back and have the commissioners look at it, or however you want to do it. Normally, committees are appointed by president
Individual.
or each commissioner. You know, if we're going to limit it, like,
Appointed by,
a lot of our functioning committees are 7 members of, you know, the community.
appointed by the members of the court.
I think it would be helpful to have one of you or more, 1 or 2 of you on each committee, but that's my thinking. I think it would be a good
Yeah.
process that way.
I wouldn't, I think that was simple. It was formed
Mhm.
in the storm, right? We've identified some commissioners. I don't want to overcook it. I think the fire company one will call it public safety. If everyone's good, we can identify 2 members to go. Same with the senior center. It's already formed. The committee's already formed. It's the 5 senior centers, or how many there are, and a representative or 2 for the purpose of discussion. Same with the fire company, purpose of discussion. There's no power, there's no guarantee. It's just that, recommendations from, like you would at Parks and Rec, although with not that level of bureaucracy, right, where they're signed and sworn in or voted on. Because we're not gonna need to do that with all the fire companies. We don't wanna have to identify, I just want 2 representatives from each fire company, or whatever you think, 1.
With the committee to end as soon as we vote on how the money will
Yeah,
be.
this is just an assistance community.
Temporary committees.
Yeah, it's not a major,
It's not going to continue on.
Ad hoc, or whatever you want.
Yeah.
yeah, however you wanna call that. And it's, again, I would recommend the first meeting is just that. Welcome to the room, a lot of conversation. Here's what we have. This is ARPA. Why are you here? We need some thoughts and ideas. What we don't want to see is each individual senior center trying to step over the other to get, because we're lost. We're not going to know. We're going to want to help. I'm going to want to help you because you're in my district. So if we put you all in the room and say, play nice together, maybe that works. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not.
We'll see.
Do we want to try to formulate a, like a intergovernmental committee? Maybe with a,
Would you recommend that?
What kind of committee,
I
Mike?
think we was.
can't hear you.
Intergovernmental.
like a
Consisting
committee
of
of the
municipalities.
towns?
I mean, that would be the segue into doing joint ventures with the municipalities, is having that committee, I would think.
I really think the flat rate is the way to go, but I'll listen to whatever you say.
I mean, we gotta listen to them.
Yeah, but if you think that's a good idea, because I have a feeling you're gonna be on that one. You sure you want that one?
Me and Joanne will take.
You think it's a good idea? Would you recommend it? Then I'd say yes.
Yeah, I think if there's opportunities to partner and to, you know, stretch their dollars that they received, it may be beneficial. And, you know, it may come out as an equal share type of a scenario, but.
It's a good conversation.
The majority of the people that live in the county or live in the municipalities. So I think it's the fair thing to do.
It's a good idea.
Ad hoc committee, Mike, or is this be
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. We don't want anything to perpetuate itself.
Be sure.
You know, find reasons to exist beyond this.
And I was on the economic one because of last year, but I also might end up on the fire company one because I have the most fire companies. The point I make is I can jump off of one or the other.
You're retired now, you got plenty of time.
I'll do them all, but I don't want, I'll do them all. I'll show up at every one if you want.
Careful what you ask for.
I'll show up. But I'm saying if there's, speak now if you want to jump in on one. Or not, or or you can go after the nonprofits.
Commissioner Hall, are you involved with the committee of the chamber?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And you're involved with tourism, Alan?
Not tourism.
I am.
Oh, you are, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Alan, you was
We
involved with
switched.
tourism for a long time. Okay. Very good, that's good. Glad that you're on this.
And I hope during public hearing, it's not a negative, but we learn why we have so many fine folks in the audience right now, because this was definitely not a stimulating conversation.
I think it was for at least 3 of them.
Are we done?
I think so.
Want to open it up,
We're done?
You got public comment?
public comment?
Any public comments? Step to the podium, sir.
Got 4 bolts in my lower back. Could I sit there?
Please.
Thank you. How y'all doing tonight?
Fine, thank
How are
you.
you?
All right, my name's Edward Trumbull. I'm a veteran of the Air Force, a disabled one after 20 years. I own a computer shop in Green Tree Shopping Center, Integrity PC Computers. Okay? I've been involved in watching the government for quite a while. And the first thing I would want to ask you, not to be flippant, what's the difference between your American Rescue Plan and shovel-ready jobs? Because I want to make sure that we spend our money wisely. Okay? Now, if you want to do something for the public, I would say go and have some meetings with them, some town hall meetings, and get a feeling for what it is that they want. Okay? You talk about broadband. How many of you guys actually understand broadband? Okay? The problem we have with broadband is I just installed a computer for a couple of senior citizens, and they even had their mother living with them. They had over 900 megabits per second on their broadband speed. I run my business off of 80. Okay, so why do they have so much? Because they oversell them their plans. Well, what's that going to do? That's going to rob other people from that bandwidth. Okay, myself, I've lived in my house for 30 years over in Williamsville. Okay, and I still don't have a cable coming down my street because they want an arm and a leg for it. So what I use is I use the cell phones. Okay, it's supposed to be unlimited. I go past my limit that I pay for, and I can still use the internet if I want to wait there for 6 months for a web page to load. Okay, so what they need to do is rethink the plans that they're selling people and get the broadband out to the people that way. If they're not going to lay cable and they want $15,000 to run a cable, okay, then we go to cell phone towers and they give us plans that make sense. Okay, that's the kind of stuff that we need to see because the internet is a window to the world. Okay, you can go anywhere, you can study anything you want. Okay, Lord sakes alive, I just downloaded all the information that I would need to become a pilot. Okay, that's the kind of stuff you can do. But if the people can't get the broadband to be able to do it, and it's not, you don't want to give them money so they can come out with G5 everywhere and push out their technology. How about G4 that actually reaches 98% of the public? Okay, that's what we need. That's what I see every day in my shop. People that have to use a satellite system that does the same exact thing. You use so much of your bandwidth and they throttle you back so you can't do anything. Okay, spend our money wisely. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Appreciate it, man.
I'm back. I just want to politely remind you, when you're putting your public safety committee together, that not all of us that do public safety belong to a firehouse. So if you just want to keep us on that email list, I would.
Anybody in particular?
We would love to be on your committee, but we, again, we're not part of DVFA and things like that, because again, we're not part of the firehouse, so we're, the redheaded stepchildren would like to come and play. Thank you.
Have a commissioner in your district that can help you out.
I bet I do.
I bet they'll get you on there.
She's dying to come up there.
Any other public comments?
What about you, Teresa or Joey?
y'all don't know me, my name is Joe Marker. I'm actually the current second vice president of Kent County Fire Chiefs Association. And I got my helper here, which is the first vice president, Jeff Brown. Biggest thing we want y'all to do is to be in a life of our shoes and what we have to deal with day to day. Because I can tell you, I'm on 48 hours of no sleep. I went to work. Sorry about that. I'm nervous. I don't like talking in front of people, but I can be good behind a radio. So I've been working like 48 hours, and I want you guys to see what it's like in our shoes. And just listen to you guys up here talk back and forth. And I know you guys, see a lot, talk to us a lot. We always asking for money. But I want you guys maybe to take a chance when you come out to actually ride with us and see what we do on a day-to-day basis. Because even Ambulance 64, like we all work together, and they're part of our family too, so we're not going to leave you guys out. And the monies are hard because I know a lot of my guys never during COVID gave anything up and still work day by day. Just a little passionate about my guys. But they did a great job, so I want you all to come out and just really think about the fire service, along with the community. Like I think, even in my little town of Lipsick, where I belong, I'm the fire chief, that just watching some of the kids out there not having the right resources to play, but no offense to the county, but we put these great big parks in places where some of these people don't have the commutes to be able to get to those parks. So think about the little towns too, and appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you, appreciate it a lot.
Appreciate you.
Any more public comments? Last call for public. Anybody online? Yes?
Yes, I see Mr. Berry, your hand is raised. You can proceed.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Ron Berry here, long-term. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Good coach.
Okay. Hey, Coach. Long-time resident here of Kent County. I really respect the diligence in the discussion on this because I think it's important. I've been here the last two meetings and really have listened to everything that's been stated. And I really think you guys are taking the right approach in terms of not moving too quickly and really thinking about the correct way to kind of go about this. This isn't a commercial, but I own a company that really helps governments make intelligent and high-value investments through well-facilitated discussion with community, potential partners, and important stakeholders. I just want to let you know that, long story short, we exist. We're here to help. We've had discussions with some of the municipalities in this county that you discussed earlier, including Camden and others, and other municipalities throughout the state. So we're well connected within state government. We know kind of what people are thinking about. Infrastructure, I obviously, but there's a lot of different people, a lot of different communities, a lot of different municipalities that really want to work together. And we are here if needed. I'm a resident. I really respect the discussion that I've heard, and I just want to make sure to leverage anything that I can to help make sure that those that have come and spoken before me are heard. The partnership ideas that were discussed today are leveraged, and we really just help add capacity to a lot of the things that you're talking about and really just give legs to good discussion to make sure that things are implemented and executed as well as they possibly can. So that's all I wanted to add. I've been here the last two discussions. I've listened diligently, and I really respect the reverence that you guys are going with this. And you're really listening. You're really taking the time to make the right decisions. Just want to let you know that people are out here that can help you put legs to this, and really help you take this to the next level if needed. If not, I just really respect the diligence that you're taking and really giving this the reverence it deserves, because it's a lot of money that can really do good and really be leveraged. So I appreciate the time. And Coach, you know how to get to me if this sounds good. But if not, I just appreciate you guys taking the time to really give this the reverence it deserves. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Anybody else, Mark?
There appears to be no one else on WebEx that wishes to comment at this time.
Last call for public. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. With nothing else on the agenda and no executive session, we are adjourned.
Tomorrow, 4 o'clock.
Harry.
5 minutes. Up. 5 minutes what? Okay. We will adjourn to executive session for 5 minutes.
When the next MPO meeting is in Camden.
You're on. Got the message, huh?
Yeah, that's okay. I did have a meeting with the rail officers.
Lost money, yes.
And just a couple of issues, and I'll send you an email and put you on the list when you get time.
Okay, all right, we'll do,
As I get back to them before the next meeting.
okay.
Okay.
When's the next meeting?
October.
Okay.
You're good. But I think they're yay nays.
Okay.
Hope Clinic maybe wants,
And most are from the sheriff.
at modern maturity, but not modern maturity. Okay.
Does he have a problem maybe sometimes when he interacts with employees?
Yeah, I heard some,
So are you gonna sell real estate?
Yeah, man, I've been trying to get you to sell your house. Why don't you want to sell it?
Well, I do wanna sell it. I do.
Well, let's go. Top dollar. I get more than that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I mean, sight unseen, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you this.
We've got some work to do first, but, we have too much junk in the house. It'll take forever to
I
clean
can
it
tell
out.
you this.
printer
If
stuff
you
or
can
something.
spend
Not gonna have a
10,
camper.
you'll make 50. You know what I mean? And that 10's a big number. If you had 10 to burn, to clean
That's
it
just,
up,
and I don't know him
shot.
from a Palmer.
But the times now, meaning, what I mean by now, I don't know where the end is, but it's gotta be there, doesn't it? This crazy market that we're in right now,
That's just my perception.
you know, you're gonna get top
Because the other
dollar.
folks, boy,
Somehow it's gotta end.
Well,